In the deep reaches of the desert, the guerrillas will be victorious. Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Jackie Fish, and welcome back to another epic Total War Rome 2 online battle. Today we are diving in with a glorious 3 vs 3 as an unlikely alliance comes together. We have the forces of the Nervii, we have the RDA, I think these guys are called, and we also have this faction I cannot remember. Is it Sabo? I honestly cannot remember, but either way, we have 3 very much kind of guerrilla factions who really benefit from deploying soldiers in forests and kind of skirmisher tactics, and then we're going up against a pretty nasty alliance of Egyptian Spartans and the Roxolani, which are a kind of step faction, so they rely very much on that light cavalry to get in. So yeah, it's going to be a very exciting battle. We don't really get to see too many of these factions, especially all in one battle. Generally we see kind of maybe an addition of one of these factions kind of come in to support a Roman or a Greek or a Hellenic or Carthaginian faction. However, to get one of these, you know, kind of elite teams of these guys, it's definitely going to be super exciting. So for the factions, we do obviously have a large amount of elite cavalry over here. These guys are going to get stuck in pretty heavily, and I love obviously the face masks as well from these desert heavy lancers. Supporting them is going to be kind of guerrilla infantry. We got Sabine. Yes, they are Sabo. Nice, I did get it right. We have some nice cavalry moving along there with some lighter infantry. Along the front lines, we are going to have some fierce swordsmen from the Nervii, and obviously over in the center as well, the RDI are going to be bringing up kind of their nice little mix of Illyrian noble hoplites. So they obviously do have that kind of pirate Hellenic feel to them. And then over on the left flank, we do have some of the cavalry as well, some mighty horse, supported by a bunch of other infantry, some guerrilla swordsmen again. So being able to commit these guys out on this flank is going to be really useful, I think, as they can get stuck in to these cavalry engagements. And the Roxolani, which are the step faction, they do have a very good amount of cavalry, and their cavalry is extremely skilled. However, if you can bog them down with infantry, they definitely lose that, you know, that horsey horse combat, which they're so good at. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. And also, as well as that, you can't see any of the incoming Spartan, Egyptian or Roxolani units. As you can see, this unit's just coming into view right now as well, so there's a lot of terrain in this battlefield, which I think will completely take the players off guard. There'll be a lot of line of sight, a lot of units just kind of all of a sudden coming into view and taking people, you know, out of nowhere. As you can see, a lot of forests kind of scattered around the battlefield, so should be very exciting. We're going to start off this battle though with this unit of step lancers, kind of trying to step in, trying to take out this unit of Greek scorpions. You know, wanting to deal with them, as we do have a Spartan scorpion, but it's just opening up from the forest line, trying to bring them down, and that's going to be able to push the Roxolani back. Just, you know, that Illyrian noble unit, kind of scaring them off, being like, if you want to commit to this and you want to try and kill our scorpion, you're going to end up losing a lot of your men. And then all of a sudden, this unit of Illyrian mighty horse, or sorry, Nervii mighty horse, kind of come out, and I think that's going to bait in a large amount of the Roxolani horses. And this is always a dangerous maneuver when you're committing your cavalry this close to the enemy line. And as you can see, more infantry is coming into view, and that's going to give the Nervii the chance to pin these guys down. And really, the Roxolani didn't get stuck in the way they wanted to. The Roxolani horses are much stronger on that charge, you know, obviously with that massive lance that they do have, whereas the Nervii are going to be much stronger in that melee. You can see they do actually get a nice little envelopment charge there off onto the mighty horse, and it's going to kill a handful of them, already losing, you know, a good 10% of their cavalry force on that charge. But however, we do have Sabo moving in more of their horses, and it does seem like they are really trying to commit more horses. And this is what I'm saying, this is why it is so dangerous, and this is something to try not to do unless you really can support it. It's so dangerous to commit your cavalry over to the enemy side of the infantry, because look how quickly Sabo and the rest of the RDI have quickly got their cavalry over here. When you attack and you commit like on this flank right here, it's just such a short distance for the attackers to really commit more of their cavalry, whereas for you, you have to bring your horse all the way around here, and it just takes a lot longer. So you always want to be patient with your cavalry and not overcommit it, because generally when you do go on the offense, even if you have superior cavalry, you're going to find yourself getting bogged down just because the enemy can quickly reinforce as the distance from here is much shorter from the distance from here. And now we are starting to see a few more of the defenders, the Spartans and the Greeks being shown into battle with some Spartan hoplites coming out of the forest. We're also getting a big portion of the Egyptians as well, their Numidian bowmen, supported by the Roxolani noble horse archers, and these guys are having a much better time of it and just absolutely pinning down the camel archers who are now fleeing back to the ranks of the forest and the dense cover the forest does bring. And again, that's kind of a dangerous thing. So you never want to overcommit. However, I say the Roxolani have got very, very deep out of the forest line. And we do have the Desert Heavy Lancers chasing them off from Sabo. And they might just catch a handful of these horses, taking a handful of volleys. But this is very deadly. However, as I said, the same problem that might arise or did arise over on that flank may arise on this one. If the Egyptians can commit some heavier horse here, they can really pin down a large amount of these guys if the Egyptian Thorax swordsmen can get here. However, it seems like they're currently just walking to battle and really they need to get stuck in here as quickly as possible as another unit of Desert Lancers dives into the rank of these noble horse archers. However, don't get it twisted, my guys, as these noble horse archers are not that bad in melee combat. They are classed as horse archers. The Roxolani do a very decent job in that combat with their horses. You know, even though they look kind of weaker, they're still not that bad. Obviously, the charge would have been devastating from the Lancers. They can still do a pretty decent job. And now we are getting another cavalry charge here. I really don't know where the majority of the Egyptian infantry is. I guess their battle line, yeah, is more over here. They need to commit way more infantry to this fight. They need to be very careful with some of their bowmen because these bows have lost 20 of their men right now. And they might even end up breaking from this battle. And now all of a sudden, Sabo are going to pull back, taking some heavy casualties on their horses, but nothing too massively. This one got slaughtered by the archer fire. And that's just the devastating, damage that bowmen can do. And yeah, again, I love the way the battlefield is set up with like these heavy, dense fortresses of infantry and forests. It kind of makes the battle very exciting. Which is always really cool. I love to see stuff like this. Oh, we're getting a unit of Desert Lancers trying to get around the flank again. Going to be pretty dangerous, as the arrows do take out a handful of these guys as they fall over. However, the Lancers are going to get another charge off. Yeah, the player who is using these horse archers is being a little bit sloppy with them. He's not getting them out as much as he should be. But again, it's very hard to use them. You have to be very, very careful. But more cavalry coming in, and right now all the Egyptian bowmen and the cavalry should just be shooting the ever-living crap out of this. Unfortunately, the bows are now focusing down on some Sabe spearmen over here, which again, it's not a bad target to whittle that down. But yeah, you definitely should be focusing down this cavalry because, I mean, just look at it pour out of the forest. So many camel archers is pretty scary. But once again, that was not a bad exchange. As the arrows start to find their mark on these horses, they really do rack up kills, and it just becomes so much easier to bring down the horses with the missile fire. Especially once you can pin them down, kind of sacrifice a unit of noble horse archers to trade out with the Sabo Lancers, I think is not a bad time of it. If we take a look at the rest of the battlefield, you can see that there's not really much going on. Just a lot of posturing over on the right flank and in the center. The Scorpions are just shooting at one another, really. Nothing too crazy, but racking up some okay kills. I mean, yeah, look at this. This unit of Spartan hoplites has lost close to 50 men, so just over 50 men. So overall, not really a bad exchange in the center there, and I'm assuming the same can be said for the RDA as well. But the majority of the fighting does seem to really be over on this left flank. A lot of missiles back and forth. Both sides really using their Desert Lancers. It's quite hard to see what the Egyptians have, because we can't see the entirety of the Egyptian army, as a lot of it is hidden. So when there is like a cavalry charge from Sabo, it's hard to see whether or not the Numidian bowmen are undefended, if they have more soldiers to help them out, or what. As you can see, just more and more of them are just dripping away. But I like that, it kind of adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of excitement to the battlefield, for sure. And when sides do commit, more and more soldiers will be coming out. And obviously you can see as well these you can't see it right there, but they have eye icons above their flags. These basically mean that the enemy can't see them right now, so a large amount of this, basically all of this, is hidden right now in the forest, and vice versa as well. There will be units scattered throughout this forest that you can't see, because obviously there is 3 entire armies stuck in this forest, which is always fun to mess around with. as both sides continue to push up. And again, I think we have got a unit over here just scouting out, taking a big view. And oh my god, the Roxolani have so much cavalry. This could be an entire Roxolani cavalry force. Rather than having any infantry, it could just all be horse. I mean, that was massive information this unit of Mighty Horse just picked up right there for the Nervii. They basically just discovered a good like 10 units of cavalry in that forest, and that's going to tell them quite a lot. And you can see immediately the player is like, oh my god, I need cavalry on this left flank or we're going to get overrun. Yeah, because I mean, if you take a look at it, we have a lot of Roxolani horse over there. Yeah, I think this is a Roxolani cavalry army, which is, again, fun. It's exciting. Very different as well. And it's going to be fun to see how that does match up. Unfortunately, the Desert Lancers came in to try and do some scouting, and immediately they saw the Numidian Bowmen move over to the right flank and take a handful of casualties trying to do that. Because again, as you can see, they had no idea where these Numidian bows did go. For all they know, they could have gone back to the center of the dense forest, and they did actually move out to that flank to cover the cavalry over on here in case the horses came out to try and take these guys out. Again, really nice moves there. I love the tactics, I love the secrecy, and we're going to have to see who makes that first move. I mean, if I was the yellow team right now, I probably would just commit my armies forward. Seeing that the forces of the Roxolani are mainly just cavalry, I think I'd rush forward, and that's kind of exactly what they are doing. You know, they're going to have a hard fight, and they're going to be a little bit of a problem having to deal with the the heavier hoplites from Egypt and Sparta. But I definitely think they would benefit from just moving forward, trying to crush the infantry, and then that way their cavalry can move on. But there's going to be much more of a heavier skirmish phase as the Roxolani and their cabin, I can't remember what the circle's called, Caribbean, Cabatian, I can't remember, honestly. But that circle is going to go off and start doing some decent damage. It also means that they take a lot less missile damage. However, some Desert Lancers are going to dive in and get a perfect charge off on the Numidian Bowmen. And that is going to be devastating. They're going to rip through this unit, probably cause mass morale issues. And yeah, that was just a bit of a mistake right there from the Egyptian player, leaving his archers a little bit vulnerable. These Desert Lancers have basically sacrificed themselves, but they've managed to trade pretty nicely with the archers, and now they can pull off and maybe get a good charge over on this side and actually get a rear charge into the noble horse archers here. And even if there is only a handful of them, they're going to be able to do some good morale damage, almost killing this unit of noble horse down on 30 men. More bowmen are now arriving, and there seems like a lot of these 4-axe swordsmen are throwing their javelins into a very, very deadly cavalry fight right now is erupting. Both sides are taking heavy casualties, but this is one of the problems. Oh, a beautiful cavalry charge here, trying to catch the Egyptians a little bit off guard, and there is not a lot here right now for them. The Arabian cavalry diving into the forest, and again, they're going to get a good charge off. They take her. Oh, actually, that charge was a little bit underwhelming as the Royal Peltis gets moved up to reinforce. However, again, they're going to be able to break another unit of these Numidian bowmen, take away that missile threat that the Egyptians do have on this left flank, because again, it really helps out covering their own cavalry and their missiles. But as I was saying, this is one of the problems right now, is that the Egyptians, because the fight is taking place behind their battle line, they can quite quickly reinforce that battle line with these 4-axe swordsmen, with these Royal Peltists who can do a good job at repelling enemy cavalry. So even though we are seeing Sabo really moving in and using their cavalry and their numbers and committing raids along the Egyptian battle line, because it's behind enemy lines and there's not really a lot to reinforce them, the Hellenic forces are quite easily able to reinforce it with infantry and other units. So again, that's always just such a dangerous tactic to really overcommit behind your enemy lines, because you're going to find yourself just getting bogged down unless you can do like a quick raid. I definitely do like, though, them taking the advantage of moving in here and just hitting the archers in the forest as they are, severely underdeveloped and deployed. You can always just love this circle. Such a powerful move as well. You can really reduce the enemy missile range coming in. And it's always so cool just seeing these guys, these vultures circling around their prey. Awesome stuff indeed. Roxolani are committing more of their cavalry out. Yeah, and I must say this must be an entire unit of entire army of cavalry. And I mean, to be fair, it does seem like the Nervii, the Sabo, and the RDA are doing a very good job of kind of dealing with this cavalry. A really, really good job. Again, I think the Roxolani are just trying to get them to commit more of their cavalry in, and hopefully we'll see an all-out charge here. This is a good place for the Roxolani to commit this cavalry. There's a lot of horse everywhere. We're going to get another charge off into the side there, and this is where the Roxolani should be able to shine. There isn't a ton of cavalry, a ton of reinforcements that can come over here. And as I said, I think the Roxolani will shine in this more open field battle. We are getting more units brought over, some Helot Archers, as well as the rest of the Roxolani cavalry. These are the Royal Lancers. They just need to dive them in. You can tell the awesomeness because they kind of got the deer ears. And you can see, yeah, the Roxolani are shining in this battle. They've already managed to rout a lot of these weaker horsemen. You've got some bowmen coming up and supporting with the Zealot Archers. And yeah, this is exactly what they want to have. You know, when you've got this much cavalry, this is exactly what you want to have a bear. You can see the cavalry fights, you know, just really getting in. This is exactly how they want to fight. You know, a little bit further away from the infantry lines. And just where their horse prowess can really shine. A unit of the Royal Lancers now flying into a battle. And that's pretty dangerous because the Sabo Royal General is engaged. He looks amazing. But he needs to be very, very careful because he's going to find himself being killed on the open field very, very quickly. We do actually have another unit of Mighty Horse from the Nervii, or Illyrian Cavalry from the RDI, diving in. But again, the Spartans are moving in along with the reinforcements from the Roxolani. Some more Royal Lancers they're going to get in. So they do lose a unit of archers, but nothing too bad. And this is going to kind of prompt the forces to move in a lot more now. Seeing these huge fights is always the best time to really commit to the battle. And you can really see the formations diving forward. I think personally this should have happened a lot long ago. Like, this should have been like, as soon as they realized how much cavalry the enemy had, they definitely should have tried to close the distance, because you know, by closing the distance, you really just get stuck in. And if you can break the infantry, because you should have more infantry than the enemy, then you're really going to come out on top. But that might not necessarily be the case, because I don't think Sparta or Egypt really took much cavalry. So maybe they do just have more infantry to make up for that. And we'll be able to tell by the end of the battle if that is the case. So yeah, I don't know if there was a good idea here of what you could do. We do see though the missiles do close the distance. We've got some slave slingers here, a very cheap unit, but a unit that can just put down a lot of shots. However, these slaves are going to have a bad time with it. Boom. I mean, just look at that. That is insane. You got the lancers. You got some cavalry diving into battle there as well. These poor soldiers just not faring at all. I mean, that's a screenshot and a half there. Sorry, I just had to take that screenshot for the thumbnail because that looked insane. And that cavalry, that unit of slave archers, slave singers are probably already going to be gone from the battlefield. However, it does bring this unit of Royal Lancers very close to the javelin line from these Illyrian Marines. And these Illyrian Marines have a handful of shots, so I mean, they're going to be able to rack up a lot of expensive kills there, off on a very decent unit. The Lancers are going to continue to move in, just try and pin these guys down and then probably pull out so they can't continue to throw javelins. We've got more hoplites moving into the fight. And they're probably just going to continue to move over to this fight. The Illyrians have been very quick at reinforcing this Roxolani battle line. However, they're going to get charged through now. Oh, that's a deadly battle line. Not being braced is very dangerous right there. And I imagine these Illyrians are going to take a lot of casualties. You can see the Roxolani, though, are taking a few casualties. They really need to reinforce this fight with more of their horse as quickly as they can. They have plenty more over on this side. And, yeah, getting stuck in is going to be very important, as you are going to be able to basically take out the entirety of the enemy cavalry. Oh, over on this right-hand side, though, we do have our infantry engagements kicking off. We have some dense Spartan hoplites engaging the fierce swords from the Nervii. The Belgians are getting, their swords bloody. Now, Nervii are from Belgium, modern-day Belgium, right? Or am I thinking of a different one? I'm pretty sure they're modern-day Belgian. If I am mistaken, I do apologize. But yeah, I mean, obviously these Spartan hoplites are going to be doing a very nice job, and it's really up to these flanking forces to break through. We do have some of these other fierce swords who have managed to do a pretty good job of actually getting around the flank. However, they are going to be getting hit by some royal peltists from the Egyptians. And right now we are seeing these flanks being hit very, very hard. The Roxolani have won these cavalry engagements like they should. You know, we always expected that. And the Nervii, with the support of the other infantry, are now being, you know, fully committed. Now the archers are doing an amazing job and just hammering this unit of royal peltists. There is, what, like 7 archers back here? Just trying their best to kill the Egyptian general, and they're even using a unit of cavalry to throw in against them. Obviously, that morale debuff would be absolutely huge right now if they could bring this unit down. I mean, it is down to beyond half strength right now. And a nice cavalry charge there into the rear of that Spartan hoplite unit. That's going to be very deadly. So there's a lot of shrubbery and trees everywhere. It's hard for me to get a good camera angle here. But a nice rear charge there into the Spartan hoplite line. And it does seem like the Roxolani have lost a lot of their cavalry, almost all their cavalry. And that's going to be pretty devastating. Really devastating, in fact, because right now the sheer numbers of infantry are just overrunning them. And there's not really much more they can do. The archer fire is doing a lot. And even with the Egyptians are kind of winning on this side. But yeah, just the amount of infantry they have on this right flank is proving, you know, its worth. And this is exactly what I brought up at the beginning of the battle, right? I said as soon as they commit their fight, their infantry to this fight, the better, really, because they should just have a lot more. But maybe without the ability of that skirmishing, you know, trading cavalry, this wouldn't have been able to be a thing, because, you know, a lot of cavalry did go down in this battle in that massive skirmisher phase. So maybe without that, they wouldn't have been able to overrun these flanks. There would have been so much cavalry everywhere. So I definitely can't fault them for having that big skirmish phase to try and weed out cavalry. And they really did use their timing as well, the attacking time. They pushed this flank as soon as that huge cavalry development happened over on this left-hand side, which brought basically all the reserve Roxolani cavalry from the center over to this side. And right now the Spartans are fully committing, wanting to get stuck into this battle. Again, they might find themselves a little bit overrun. And because these formations, they've got very dense hoplite walls, it's kind of allowing this envelopment to happen in the center of the battle line. You know, they're getting some, you know, some of their spearmen around the side. We do have some pikemen being brought up as well to reinforce battle lines. However, the archer fire from these slave slingers is definitely picking off 2 or 3 of them per volley, indeed, as the Spartans bring around more of them then. And yeah, this Roxolani cavalry, because it got brought so far away from this side, you can see this fringe force, the Spartans and Egyptians, is really, really struggling right now. You know, their main forces are kind of, you know, more in the center than anything else, and the Spartans are just finding themselves being enveloped. However, they are still Spartan warriors. These are not measly, you know, Greeks from other city-states. These are Spartans bred for a single purpose: to face away from the enemy. No, to destroy the will of men. Got Egyptians coming off, and there's just a lot of cavalry in the rear, and this is what's gonna, you know, be the killing blow, I think, for the Hellenics, is the sheer amount of horse in their back, routing their hoplites. So I mean, obviously in the center, the Spartans are probably going to be doing a very nice job. And we just slow down the camera as well. Yeah, I imagine the Spartans are going to be, you know, very, very deadly from the front. But it's the fact that we are seeing a lot more of these units kind of get round the rear and able to do this damage to them from the back. You know, these cavalry charges, especially in vanilla Rome, do so much damage from the back. And I think it's only a matter of time now as well until we do see a lot more cavalry charges coming in. The Illyrians are pulling back, where it seems, obviously not wanting to commit into this, and I don't think that's a bad idea. If they did decide to fully commit further back from this fight, I don't think it's a bad idea to reform their battle line, because soon enough we're going to see a large amount of units coming to reinforce this. And they will be losing, obviously, from the front against the Spartan hoplites. Yeah, I mean, this unit of Spartan hoplites has lost 4 men, and this unit of Illyrian nobles have lost almost 60. That's a pretty big difference, right? Especially with the Spartan missiles coming in as well. More and more Egyptian forces are moving in. I mean, the Roxolani have now got their cavalry over to this side, but it's a little bit too late. The Nervii are diving in with everything they've got. Reinforcements moving in. And the Spartans are trying to form up a long defensive line, but I'm not sure how well it's going to be. The Hellenic Royal Guard and their awesome Pikes are about to receive a charge. And obviously then Pikes are going to be pretty deadly from the front. But you know, obviously the units are going to be easily able to envelop them. Obviously not wanting to engage them Pikes in the front. They're just taking more men, moving them around the flank. And honestly, unless the Spartans can break the RDA, I think all is lost to the Hellenic forces. I love the look of them Spartans right there. It's the pikeman with that Spartan kind of, you know, elbow shield. Looks really good. But yeah, unless the Spartans can kind of quickly deal with them and then reform up their forces, I just don't think it's going to be enough, especially with these Gallic hunters coming around the flank as well. These guys are soon going to be able to shoot into the rear of these hoplite walls, and that is going to be devastating. Really, really dangerous for them. But we are seeing some, you know, some small glimmers of hope, because these hoplites are obviously doing a very good job against the Illyrian Marines and the rest of what the RDA have to offer. You know, these are the heroes of Spartan units right here. And a whole wealth of other, you know, heavier infantry. Definitely proves its strength. Oh, that guy just got absolutely smashed by that shield. That was awesome. But alas, I just don't think it's going to be enough, and I think now we're going to be seeing the last stand of Sparta. Also, look at all these shadows back here as well. It looks so funny. It kind of looks like an army. This kind of looks like, you know, like a World War II reconnaissance, you know, blip where they've made a bunch of inflatables to scare the Germans by making these shadows in the ground. That's kind of, we could say that this was like a tactic employed to make their army look larger, because I guess maybe if you're looking down the hill, you can't really see everything. You just see some shadows, some dark spaces. Hey, that could not be a bad strategy. Does seem like, though, these helot archers are going to find their grave at the bottom of this forest, so as the Illyrian cavalry do catch them off, and the Spartans just don't have really anything else they can commit. The Egyptians, who we haven't really seen like much of them in this battle, are now finding themselves enveloped. Even their pikes are not going to be impenetrable, as the Nervii have found their way into the rear, even though we do kind of have this square pike formation. It's simply not going to be enough. And the barbarians from the north are able to get these envelopments. And we also now do have even some of these archers who are out of ammunition, just charging in, trying to break the Spartans at all costs, you know, trying to give, you know, stack up their morale debuffs. I'm sure the Spartans will welcome this challenge to their might in this battle, continuing to stand to the bitter end. Yeah, so many envelopments. These hoplite walls are basically useless now. The Illyrians finding their way around the back with some slave slingers, I imagine, immediately shooting here. However, they are going to be able to kill the Illyrian general, I would assume. And I mean, even on this left flank, the Spartans are still fighting bravely on. You know, they are breaking the enemy, even after cavalry charge, hitting their ranks. Their morale is still stacking up, and they are killing these Marines, I think, that the RDA have. Yeah, these Illyrian Marines. They're still bringing them down, and I imagine their kills, yeah, 100 kills apiece, basically. These are definitely, you know, elite soldiers indeed. It's just a shame that the Nervii are going to come up. However, the Nervii morale is looking pretty dangerous, and, you know, they are dropping men. If they could kill the Nervii general, who knows what could happen. I can't imagine the Spartans win this one. They just seem severely outnumbered, but there is only one unit of Illyrian Marines here. Maybe they could reinforce. The Illyrian general goes down, then who knows what could happen. Because, I mean, these Spartans are literally surrounded. And they are still fighting bravely on, breaking this envelopment, basically. They are now no longer enveloped. Up to 100 kills on this unit. Over 200 on this Spartan hoplite unit. Really, Nervii need to get their men over here ASAP. Because without reinforcements, I think the Illyrians just cannot withstand the charges that's going to come in. I mean, yeah, taking a look at that, like, you know, they have a lot of archers, which now these slingers are going to be able to rack up a lot of kills onto the rear here and kill a lot of these Spartans. But there's still a lot of Spartans still left remaining. You know, these slingers are probably going to be what ends this battle in 2 minutes. This is good. They're going to be able to, you know, into the rear. Even slave slingers, they still do a lot of damage just in their numbers. And we are getting cavalry charging in, but maybe we could see, you know, a lucky kill on the enemy general here from the Spartans, and all of a sudden this entire army breaks, the Egyptians then reinforce. Who knows what could happen? I'd be like that's probably like a 5% chance of that happening, but you never know. You never know, because I imagine this unit's going to continue just to hammer the nail into the back of these Spartan hoplites. Yeah, charge after charge. These are like the Unsullied at Kaf, repelling the Dothraki charges. And now you've got infantry coming in to reinforce as well to kind of really supplement that. And yeah, the Spartans are breaking. It's not a great sight, but it's a sight that we will be seeing nonetheless. The Egyptians are gone now, and I think this battle is all but over. Cavalry coming out of the forest. So overall, that was a very, very fun battle. Really big massive thank you to everyone who played in this battle and sent it in to me. I really appreciate it. I love the cavalry. I love the terrain. I feel like the cavalry, them being 30 units of cavalry, only really worked because of the forest and the way the map was set up. It led for a lot of ambushes. It led for a lot of exciting gameplay. And yeah, definitely something very, very different. But unfortunately, the Spartans are going down. We will spend the last, 30 seconds watching the charges come in. And basically everyone just Control A, right click to attack. And we'll spend the last couple of seconds watching the Spartan general fighting bravely, but inevitably breaking from this fight. Yeah, there you go. The Spartans do break. It's not a sight you see very often. It's something that did happen, and GG indeed. So the guerrilla tactics of the more barbarian nomadic factions came out on top indeed. And yeah, what a crazy battle. So what I want to see is how many kills the Roxolani cavalry actually got. I mean, they did very good, right? They all got over 100 kills, and the majority of these kills were probably all on cavalry itself. So the cavalry don't end up being these big blobs of horses, of 200 men or whatever, like infantry. So yeah, the Roxolani, even though it only shows they got 1,300 kills, still did a pretty decent job. Yeah, we can also see the nomadic army as well from Saba, sorry. I've been watching too much One Piece. From Saba over here, who, did do a pretty decent job, but it does seem like they were a little bit outmatched there by the Roxolani. But their infantry did okay as well. You can see the Illyrian kills as well, because it does seem like the Illyria and also the Nervii did both bring cavalry, whereas the Spartans and the Egyptians did not. Wow, why did the Spartans have such a little force? Probably because they just brought an elite army, right? And I think that probably came back to hurt them pretty heavily because they were just overrun by the barbarians indeed. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, drop a like and a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification. Consider supporting me on Patreon for a brand new Rome 2 live stream every week. And I'll see you guys in the next one.